kyphosis and scoliosis.
يعطونا مكان داخلية
Yeah. So this becomes very important in the cases of spinal surgeries in which there is a pool of blood and we do not know how exactly the spine is lying inside, because it could be a scoliotic spine, it could be a kyphotic spine. So we have pedicle screw guides, we can put it over the spine and we can put the pedicles through it, we can put the screws through it, and it goes directly into the pedicles and the nerves are preserved from being damaged.
يا رب
Similarly,
عافاك يا كريم يا كريم.
Similarly, we have various osteotomy guides. So as Ibrahim had
كنت
also
تحتاج
shown in one
مويه
of his pictures in which the osteotomy guides were shown, in this what
مويه
happens,
بجيب
let's say
لك.
we are going for a total knee replacement, or we have to do a particular osteotomy for a varus knee in which the knee is present in the interior inward direction, or a valgus knee. So the bone has to be cut in a particular direction. A wedge osteotomy has to be done. That bone has to be taken out and the bone is reduced in size and a plate is put over it. And if that is made in a wrong angle, what happens is we end up shortening of the limb or a malposition of the knee, which can be very difficult for the patient in long run. So osteotomy guides are printed before the surgery, depending upon the angles in which you have to cut a particular bone. We put these guides over the bone by simple screws, and then we make the wedge osteotomy or whatever osteotomy we can do it. Like you can see in this figure, there are two osteotomy guides which are there, and we can cut the bone in this manner and then we can fix it. Now, there is a lot which is being talked about patient-specific implants. So what happens these days is a implant which is made for a Western person may not be good for an Asian person, because let's talk about a simple thing like total knee replacement. Asians are very prone to do spotting, whereas when we talk about spotting, it's not very common in Western nations. So we need a typical kind of implant that helps the Asian population to spot. Plus, if we talk about the angulation of various bones, they are also a little different when we talk about different kind of people. Let it be Caucasians, let it be Asians. So these patient-specific implants can be printed and they can be put on the bone and they can have the contour of the bone. And when they have the contour of the bone, they could give better fixation and better results in long run. This can be for the spine, this can be for the discs, this can be even for the various trauma surgery that we do very frequently. Now, 3D printed vertebra are being also used for revision surgery in tumor recurrence. Like there is a complete bone which is damaged in a particular spine, like let's say a body is damaged, we cannot remove this and put nothing here. So what we do is we print a 3D printed vertebral body, and we can put directly in this area, and it will provide a mechanical support, and it will be identical to the other spinal bodies which are present in the human. This is one of the example. 3D printed hips are also being produced, 3D printed for various tumors. The whole bone can be printed and that can be grafted inside the body. Now, one of the interesting things that has been come up recently is the patient-specific orthosis. I wouldn't say it has come up recently. It's been more than 2 decades. However, it is being used popularly these days, specifically considering the fact that things like normal plaster that we used to put is very heavy. Plus, you can't put water over it. So these kind of orthoses are being produced, which can help the bone keep the bone in a proper position after reduction, and can provide support also, and are compatible to water and are lightweight. So these things are helping the patients a lot these days and need further evaluation. Now, in rehabilitation, a lot is being done for 3D printing. Like recently, we were funded by Canada India SCI Innovation Award by IC Impacts for $100,000 to make an artificial hand for patients. And we made it on the basis of fluid mechanics, and there were various tendon routing and the fishbone structures that we did by 3D printing. And it is under the process of IP generation and marketing. So these things are being studied a lot for prostheses, for supportive things for paralyzed people, in which these gloves can be made, and then they can be linked with brain machine interface or artificial intelligence and help the patient in getting into the community. Now, there are a lot of novel applications being done these days. We are still not into the market, but a lot of studies are being done which could help the patients in future. So what happens in a number of spine surgeries is that what we do is fusion surgery. What is fusion surgery is we remove this disc which is present in between the spine, and we put a metallic implant, and it helps in the fusion of these two bodies. Now, this is very good because it helps in the fusion of these two, but the disadvantages is that this structure becomes too strong, and the structure above and below can become weakened. So when these two structures become weakened, there are chances that they may slip over each other, may lead to disc prolapse, may lead to lysis or listhesis. Hence, it is even better that if we have something like this, which can provide mobility also and stability also. So what is being printed these days, or studies are going in which there is a lattice inside. Like when we talk about the disc, we have nucleus in between, that is nucleus pulposus, and we have annulus fibrosus, which is a thick structure around it. So they are making something like this in which there is a lattice in between, which is like nucleus, and we have the solid structure around it, which is a scaffold, and it resembles the annulus fibrosus. So this structure, when printed and put inside the spine, it will provide the stability also, and it will provide the mobility, flexion and extension of the spine. So these things are being studied. Similarly, Mr. Ibrahim also threw some light on this before his talk ended. So the diagram that I have shown is for pancreas, but things are being done even for spine. So what is happening in spine is we have 3D printed materials which can help in targeting the drug to a particular area. Let's say a person is there who had a spinal cord injury, and we want a particular drug, let it be riluzole, let it be steroids, that have to be directed towards the L4-5 region. So we have 3D printed materials which are attractive to magnet, and we have drugs loaded in them. So by simple technique, we can go into the spinal cord or the epidural space, and we can inject the drug there. And then we can use a magnet or something, and we can reach the L3-4, L4-5 area where the injury has happened, and all these particles can go there and stand, and they can release their drug in a maximum manner. So this is much better than giving an injection intravenous, giving the patient intravenous riluzole, intravenous steroids in a large quantity, because this is kind of a targeted therapy which goes into that area, releases drugs and reduces inflammation. And the golden period that we have in case of spinal cord injury is 6 hours. If we can do something in 6 hours, give maximum drugs at that particular areas, reduce the inflammation, we can have better outcomes and prevent the patient from paralysis in future. Everything has pitfalls and challenges, and so does 3D printing. When we talk about spinal cord, spine and orthopedics, it's a time-consuming process. Cost of having 3D printing facility are considerable for any hospital. Many a times these things are not covered with insurance. Furthermore, we need some kind of metal which can stimulate both bone and soft tissue. If we replace the whole femur with a 3D printed implant and it does not have any growth of bones into it or any growth of tissues into it, then everything will be a failure and we'll have pus in that area. So these things have to be considered, because when we talk about body, it is not merely black or white, and it is not merely 0 and 1 binary form. It is always a gray zone where everything has to work together towards the common goal. Plus, there are regulatory considerations. Anything that has to be done has to go through material vigilance. Material vigilance is different in different countries. The drug regulatory authority or the implant regulatory authority has to approve it before we can use it in various patients and see the results. 3D printing technology is an exciting innovation with key application in spinal and orthopedic surgery. However, clinical validation before bringing these products in market is very required, and material vigilance has to be kept in mind whenever we are talking about these things. With this, I'd like to conclude my talk, and with a simple saying that intuition is the master, proof is just a slave. It's a mean to convince that you are not wrong. So let's start intuiting, let's start innovating, and let's start inventing to make this world a better place for people who are spinal cord injured, because they are not simple individuals, they are heroes.
Thank you, Dr. Shakti. Like, it was really great to hear from you. So, and it's like something new for us. Like, I was not knowing about so much about like the things, and now I'm knowing it. Piyush sir, are you there? So you can.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Shakti. It was a nice session, really. We have some questions in the chat, like what material you use in spinal 3D printing. And here is another question. Is biocompatible material available for tissue manufacturing?
So I'll answer the second question first. So there is a material which comes by the name of tantalum. So tantalum material has been found to be very useful. The reason being it has been shown to have permit the growth of bones into it. So these kind of materials, we are looking more into these kind of materials which can help the bone growth, so that these are biocompatible. Biocompatible is even titanium, even stainless steel is compatible when you talk about simple plates and stuff. But when we are talking about 3D printing implants, and like we want to print the whole hip, we need something in which the bones, tissues can grow and the circulation could be restored, because anything you put in the body once is an external material and we want something internal which can grow into it so that the circulation can be restored.
Thank you very much. Do any person have question? They can ask us or they can raise their hand. Hello.
Hello.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Shakti, for a good presentation. If anyone wants to have a question with Dr. Shakti, he can have or he can raise her hand. Miss Laila Al-Shuhab has raised her hand. Miss Laila, can you please make your mic on?
Hello.
Yes, we are getting some questions.
Yes, I have a question. Did you able to print all the size for the vertebra?
Hello, Ms. Laila. Could you please repeat your question? It wasn't clear.
Did you able to print all the size for the vertebra? I know they have different sizes for it.
Yes. So what we do is we do a CT scan first. We analyze the size and then we print it. So if we have, let's say you have a big hemangioma at the L4-5 level and we want to excise that hemangioma and put a vertebral body in that area. So what we do is we first do the CT scan, see the size of the vertebra, and then we print it and put it in that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, Laila. There is another question in the chat. What is the future of 3D printing in technology in medical field?
So this is a very nice question and a very broad question. So when we talk about the future is immense, because when we talk about the community inclusion of these people, it becomes imperative that development of a prosthetic hand on an orthotic hand, these things are the things of the future. But the one thing that I always tell even my students and everybody is that we always have to keep the cost in mind. So when we get patients, especially in a country like India, and they're not covered with under insurance, they're not ready to spend a lot. And when we talk about the orthoses and the stuff which is present in the Western nations, even a simple wheelchair which is controlled by remote costs 4 to 5 lakhs. So we need to develop something indigenous which is low cost. The future is immense because this helps in the community inclusion of these people. Let it be any patient with a lost limb who can get into the community, who can type, a paralyzed patient who cannot type and he wears a gloves and he can type, then it helps in the community inclusion and helps in getting employment and giving them self-confidence. Because if we talk about a very simple thing, like we have a patient who is cervical spinal cord injured and who has to ask someone else to unzip him so that he can pass urine. So that becomes very embarrassing. So these are the small things that people who are not spinal cord injured are not able to understand very well. However, for 3D printing glove, which is linked with artificial intelligence, can help the patients in unzipping themselves and passing urine, it gives them a lot of confidence. And that is what is the scope in the future.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Shakti. We are getting many questions here. So there are another questions for you. I hope you can see the chat as well.
Yeah, I can. I am using SLA laser-based 3D printer in India and 10 to parts of clear liners with biocompatible materials are really costly. Can we have a less costly material? So this is my question to all the engineers, sir. Because this is I use the implants, I use what I get, and this makes the surgery expensive. If you can come up with something cheaper, that will be amazing. But we want something which is cheaper and which is biocompatible. So I am here keeping my problems in front of you because I can see stalwarts in the field of engineering in front of us. And these are my problem statements. And if you can come up with a solution, that will, because what is required at this point is a collaboration between engineers and doctors. It is not merely that the surgeries are thus done in this manner, but if we can come up with something which is low cost, which is biocompatible, and which can help provide the similar properties, so that will be amazing. So this is my question towards you. I can't answer this because I'm not aware about the cost of these materials. What is the medical certification of the materials? Class 1, Class 2, Class 3. Sir, what I can just say is I do not know what these certifications are because that is again not my field. What I can tell you is that whatever I use has to be certified by the Drug Controller General of India, and the material vigilance has to be approved. Only then I can use these materials. These things, development lies from my engineering group, My work is to use these and how to apply these in these patients.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shakti, for answering these questions. It was a very interesting session with you.
So this is another question. What is the future of PEEK? So I hope this Akshay is talking about the PEEK cages of the cervical spine, right? So the future of PEEK cages is amazing. So these PEEK is a material we use it in PEEK cages. So PEEK cages are very interesting. Earlier, what we used to do is, I'll show you one if you can see my video. So this is a cervical spine. So PEEK material cages we have been using earlier. What we used to do was we used to put a plate here in front of this. So this plate used to sometimes irritate the trachea, irritate the esophagus. Now they have come up with this PEEK material and the PEEK cages. So the beauty of this material and these cages is that you can put directly in between these two disc areas, and the screws goes from inside. It does not come anything come outside. So it does not irritate the esophagus and trachea, and patients have better outcome. And PEEK cages, PEEK material has shown very nice biocompatibility, at least in my patients in which I have been applying these PEEK cages. In fact, I have a review of all these materials, including PEEK, and PEEK showed very nice results. If Akshay wants, he can email it to me. He can email or WhatsApp me, and I'll send that paper to him. Okay, thank you, Mr. Piyush.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shakti. Another question has been there: which printer are you using in the medical field?
So we have collaborations with various institutes, including IIT Delhi, and they have their own printer. So I'll not be able to give you the name of the printer, but we are working with them, and whatever they have, and they print it and we apply it on patients. If they need it, they can send a WhatsApp or email to me, and I can find out anything.
Sure. If anyone have the question, Dr. Shakti will send his email in the chat, and everyone can connect with him. Dr. Shakti, thank you for joining us. We will move to the next speaker, but please do stay with us. So we will, in the last, we will do a panel discussion with all our speakers. Okay?
Sure, sir. Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. Hi, Mr. Ketan, are you there? Hello.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi,
Yes.
Mr. Ketan.
Yes, Piyush. Yeah.
Yes. Hi. So how did you like the session between the last two?
Excellent. It's very interactive, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I also have some of the questions that that were asked. Hopefully I'll be able to answer some of them as well. Excellent. Thank you. Let me go ahead and share my presentation.
Very good. Yes. You can start.
Okay, I'll turn off my video just to keep the internet connection strong. Okay. All right. Can you see my screen? Hello.
Yes, we can see.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. So today I am going to talk about the beginning part of what Mr. Ibrahim and Dr. Shakti mentioned about is how we can enable the 3D printing in healthcare, using the digital surgical planning platform called MySegmenter that we have developed. So just to give you a little bit of background, we are a bunch of engineers. We are not surgeons. We work very closely with surgeons, but we are biomedical engineers and imaging specialists who understand anatomy, but who are mostly engineers. This is the value on which we have built our organization. So if you look at any surgery, right, especially any complex surgeries where they need support of preoperative planning and 3D printing, really there are two components to it. One is you have to do a proper planning before the surgeon goes inside the surgery. And now once the planning is done, a lot of times they need the helping hand inside the surgery. And that's where the 3D printing execution comes in. So it's combination of planning and then the execution that is important. So what exactly we do is we provide these two as a separate services, where in preoperative support, we do 3D visualization from CT scans or MRI scans, and then using our MySegmenter platform. And then we work very closely with the surgeons on creating a digital surgical plan. So you basically do a virtual surgery, you plan it exactly what the surgeon really wants to do in the surgery, and then you go in and inside the operation theater, you use whatever is needed for that particular anatomy or that particular case. Okay, so what we mean by 3D visualization, right? So here is an example of what you see on the top on the video is a CT scan. Okay, so a lot of times when you have complex CT scans with a lot of hardware, a lot of implants within, and this is one of the revision surgery that we worked on, you can imagine that the surgeon is not able to understand what is actually happening inside in this patient, right? So when you do a proper segmentation process wherein you're understanding and you're separating out and segmenting out each components that are there, it gives the surgeon the ability to understand it properly, and then thereby also help them better plan their surgery. So this is kind of the first step of creating that 3D visualization from the CT scans or MRI scans. Once that is done, then you do a surgical planning. So in surgical planning, what we do is we work very closely with the surgeons on pretty much doing the virtual surgery, wherein we say, okay, here's a cutting guide, this is what I want to use, this is how I want to cut it, this is where you will cut it. Then this is a fibula flap surgery case wherein there is a fibula bone where this guide is going. So we create this virtual plan, we make the cuts, we show these virtual cuts, we show how these cuts would basically align and attach onto that particular case. Again, we've done head to toe, but this is one of the examples, right? So once we have done the planning, even here, right, they could stop and say, what is the length of the screw that I need to do? So we are able to provide them all the planning information that they need for the successful surgery. So once that is done, now you're ready for execution inside the operation theater. So once that is now inside the operation theater, it could be different things, right? So one is of course physical models, that they can see it on their table, they can see it in the operation theater even beforehand to really understand and touch and feel truly accurate 3D model of the patient's anatomy. So here are some of the examples of the models, right? So then we also provide these cutting guides or surgical guides or models that are used inside the surgery. These models are biocompatible, like Dr. Shakti mentioned. These are 3D printed, they are biocompatible material. More and more companies are coming up with more biocompatible materials. We have partners as well as we have our own machines where we provide these models and these guides, surgical guides for surgery. And then beyond that, like Dr. Shakti mentioned, you can also go all the way to customized implants. So here are some of the cases we have done. It's a cranial plate or a mandible or a total ankle spacer, what we call it, or maxillary implant. So these are all 3D printed implants going inside the patient's, biocompatible, made in titanium, that goes and stays in the patient forever. So these are more as you go from simple 3D models to complex implants, the regulatory aspects also gets into place, and also the complexity and the time it takes to get everything ready also takes the toll. So as you grow more, as you do more of these, and as you go towards the bottom, more complexity is added. So how does this really work, right? And I think Mr. Ibrahim kind of mentioned the process very nicely. So CT scans, in our case, we have this MySegmenter platform. Our goal was to how we can enable everyone who wants to do this more easily, because a lot of times the segmentation and the design part is not everybody's expertise, and at the end of the day the surgeon really should focus on doing the surgeries, right? So and then if there is a 3D printing service bureau who has good 3D printers and they want to enter into the medical, they can also enter, enabling them using this MySegmenter platform, wherein they can upload CT scans, we provide the 3D planning, there is a payment gateway that we've also included in this MySegmenter, and then the 3D printing and what's used in the surgery. This is how basically what it looks like. MySegmenter, you upload the DICOM files, which are the CT scans. Once that is done, you basically what we do is we create a 3D file that the surgeon can look at it. The surgeon can also share it with the patient, wherein they are able to communicate with us, with patients about their anatomy, how exactly what is happening, and really plan it virtually. And this link can also be shared with their peers, so that it's not just one surgeon who's looking at it, but there are multiple group of surgeons who can look at it and give actual feedback. So this online platform that we have built really helps surgeon make sure that there's a proper communication happening as well. So the tools here are directly on the web. where they can look at it, view, measure. We've also included in this case the payment portal, wherein sometimes the patient directly wants to pay. So again, it varies from country to country, but in some of the countries we are able to have this model as well. So the advantage of a platform like this, it's easy data transfer. Anyone who is a surgeon or who has a 3D printer can get into the healthcare using this platform. There's planning, there's preoperative planning that we do along with the surgeons, and just overall a better communication happening across different stakeholders. This is just some examples, right? How patient communication, multiple stakeholders can really use the same open link, where the patient can be communicated about, hey, this is your 3D, this is how it looks like. The same surgeon can also talk in their other groups saying, hey, this is the case, what do you think? Give me feedback. So at the end of the day, we focus on, like Dr. Shakti said, at the end of the day, we want to make patients' outcome better, and I think that is what we continue to focus on. There are definitely pitfalls, like Dr. Shakti also mentioned. It's not for all cases. If there is a standard implant that is a straightforward case, you don't need to use 3D printing for every case. Yeah, and then there's also the cost related things. There's the biocompatibility. It's very important. I think I do want to stress on the biocompatibility part. Very important, because many a times we have seen that an FDM model is being used inside the operation theater, right? Those FDM printers, the PLA material is not biocompatible. And when the PLA material is not biocompatible, Bushra Khan, could you please mute your mic? Hello.
Yeah, one second. Bushra Khan, can you please switch your mic off? Prabhat, do one thing. Put all attendees on the mic switch off, and
Yeah,
so only the speaker mic will be on.
तो उधर से आए हेड डाउन था तो साहब बस एक बार मैंने उठे सर ने कहा साहब
Yeah, just a second. I'm switching
फिर
off
बाद
the
में
mic.
मैंने करा
Yeah, so biocompatibility is something I really want to stress. Many a times FDM printers are used for modeling and taking a look at it before the surgery, but it's very important not to use these non-biocompatible material inside the patient, right, directly in contact with the patient, because they can be toxic and it can be harmful for those patients. So the biocompatibility is definitely something that requires proper scrutiny. There is one thing you can do in general. Any material you use that is going to be in contact with patients inside the surgery, make sure it's USP class 6 is the term that you can find. Either it needs to be USP class 6, or you can say that it's 10993 certified, ISO 10993 certified material. So as long as the material is ISO 10993 certified, it's biocompatible and it is safe and effective for that patient to be in contact with. So it's very critical that this piece is not missed. Definitely there is time issues. There is CT scan to 3D takes time, planning takes time, so manufacturing takes time, so there's pitfalls. And then overall there is a system complexity, right? It's not like a standard implant that you can stack thousands of the same thing again and again, right? It's an individualized surgery, and it does take time. Of course, the time also means there's a cost to it. With that, I want to thank you for giving this opportunity, and we'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ketan. Thank you very much. If anyone would like to have any questions with Mr. Ketan, they can ask in chat, or they can just make their mic on and can have the question. Yes, Mr. Ketan, there is a question. Can you talk about medical peak material?
Yes. So, in context of 3D printing, there are a couple of companies who are medical grade, who provide medical grade PEEK material. I think there's Evonik is one. There's one more in Germany. But if you look it up, there are PEEK material filaments, FDM filaments, and there are PEEK printers. There is one company in Germany who has a certified FDA certified machines that they are starting to develop. So definitely it is coming in terms of material as an option. However, that is not the only material. If you ask surgeons today, titanium, 3D printed titanium pore structures still today are the #1 choice. Part of it is when you look at 3D printed PEEK, especially when it comes to FDM technology, there is a risk of what do you call it? the delamination, right? Because PEEK is a very hard material to process, and there is a risk of delamination. So you don't want your implants, after 6 months or a year inside the patient to kind of separate it out and delaminate. So these are some of the real risks today where, PEEK is questioned about. Of course, there's also a machining option with PEEK, but one of the biggest problem with PEEK machining is that the cost of the implant, like Dr. Shakti mentioned, is significantly higher, right? So you would rather go the traditional route and use something else. So while PEEK is an exotic material, it's also you have to make sure that you use it in the right way. And like I said, there's more and more surgeons today also prefer titanium, the porous titanium structures, which is equally in terms of outcomes have proven. Okay, so I'll just go through the questions. Okay, is the software FDA approved? Yes, so we do use off-the-shelf US FDA software, FDA cleared software. We have multiple licenses of that, and this is one of the things we wanted to make sure, because many a times, these softwares are very expensive, and if you are not doing 10, 15 cases a day, or a significant number of cases a day, the cost of these softwares is not justified for the volumes that many of us have. And that's where we decided to provide this service, MySegmenter service, wherein we provide this service on a validated FDA cleared software on segmentation, and then we have a dedicated design tools as well. Okay, I'll go to the next question. Is the printing of soft tissue like consistency possible? Soft tissue printing is still in a research phase. I know there's people who've done heart and liver and all, but it's still in a very early stages. There is no commercial applications being done yet. I think still in a very research phase. They're still figuring out the hydrogels and the structures and how the cells will grow and the stability of all that. So again, it's absolutely promising, and it's the future, but I think it's still at a research stage. Okay, another question is it any polymeric material are used for 3D printing? I don't understand what polymeric would mean. Most of the materials are polymers. If you look at FDM, it's either PLA or ABS. If you look at SLS technology, then it's nylon. PA2200 is typically used. And then if you look at photopolymers, right, for example, for the SLA and the DLP technologies that are coming up, those are really photopolymers, which are light sensitive. So I think it really depends on the 3D technology that you are using. If that answers the question.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Ketan, for joining us today. It was really very interesting session. We can move on to the next speaker now, and please do stay with us. In the panel discussion, you will be the moderator and the panelist as well. So please stay with us, okay? And I would like to welcome Mr. Gaffar. Professor Gaffar, are you there? Hello, Professor Gaffar.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, how are you?
Yes, hi, Payush. Good morning. Actually, good afternoon. I'm in the morning now. Good afternoon,
okay,
everyone.
all right.
Okay, just give me a minute to share my screen.
Sure.
Should I send you my presentation or?
No, okay, share the screen.
Okay, I can share it here. Okay, good. Yeah.
Yes.
Second, they have so many screens open, so I have to pick the right one.
Hello.
Yes, just 1 second.
Oh.
I have many screens actually open here, so I'm just trying to figure out which one I should open.
No, please take your time.
Okay, thank you for your patience.
Yes, we can hear you and can see your screen. You can start.
Can you hear me now, Will?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry for the delay. I'm sorry, the presentation, I have to skip some parts. I had a short notice of this workshop, and I'm very glad to participate and be part of it. And thank you very much for the invitation. Okay, my talk will be a little bit general. I wasn't planning to, I didn't take enough time to go very specific. So I will show you generally what our projects we're doing and what is our goal. I thought like this should be focused more on AM in the Middle East and Africa. So my approach went that way. So I'm gonna talk about this part. It has been one of my main concerns in the past few years. That what we should do to help countries in the Middle East and Africa to utilize AM in the healthcare industry, which is very challenging, because once you go there, you will find that people don't have the vision and enough information and resources about AM and how AM can impact not only the industry, but also the economy. So I have, in the last 8 or 9 months, we were involved in a project with the Department of Health in Ethiopia, with a company that want to take advantage of this the spread of COVID, which exposed that the health infrastructure in Africa is very weak. So they were trying to establish a center there for production of healthcare equipment, but things did not work well. And I don't know if you follow the politics. Ethiopia now is going through a big war. So anyway, but we have went also to look at the Middle East, because some countries in the Middle East are really rich and they can utilize AM to the optimum. But unfortunately, they don't seem to be like utilizing the value of AM. So looking at the study, so this is actually, I was looking for another slide for all the Gulf countries. Saudi Arabia, for example, is the West in utilizing AM. So for accidents, annual cost is 87.18 billion. This study was done probably which year, 2013. So now it could be much more, and it's very difficult to find data also to justify and to build the case. But this one, unfortunately, we have this one to start with. So imagine 87 billion Saudi riyal. This is about, divide this by 3, about 25 billion, or somewhere between 20 and 25 billion dollars per year in the cost. So 97 of these accident victims require transfer to hospitals. 79% of the injured are Saudis, so they have to be treated there, and the country usually pays more, bear any cost to treat them. Injuries related to shoulders and other parts of the body account for 41.6, so that's almost half. Head-facing injuries estimated at 33%. And the other one is stomach and pelvis injuries, like 14%. And this is, I had another slide I couldn't find, but also Kuwait, the same thing. Qatar, the cost is like 10 billion. All of them, the range goes between $7 billion a year and up. So why they don't look at the advantage of using AM? And there is a big need there. Especially now the economy is going down everywhere. So anyway, to make long story short, I will just go quickly on the possible use of AM in the industry. We have, I will come back to that at the end. Okay. So, you know, looking at these images, you can see the powerful revolution of AM as a second industrial revolution in the world. So now you can make very complex parts, as you know, using AM. Now, what we're interested in basically is using AM for design and fabrication of medical devices and implants specifically. And now we extend it to prosthetics. Okay. Let me move this over. So the custom design of implants, 10 years ago, it was like something impossible, and so many restrictions, so many regulations, especially here in the US. But now the market started to loosen a little bit, and they have more freedom to use AM in orthopedics. So in dental devices or dental implants, the usage is very promising. Now, like companies like Invisalign, for example, they make millions and millions of aligners a year, and they're expanding very fast. All of it is based on custom design. Challenges, for example, the cranial plate that they use in skeleton fracture. This cannot be used as volume manufacturing or volume production. It can only be used as custom. So this is where additive manufacturing can play a big role. Big companies, of course, they will not be happy with additive manufacturing because it threatens their production. It's easier for a company to just get a specific sizes of implants and release them to the market in large volume than going case by case. But then the scientific opinion, which one is better? Is it to go for custom one or to go for large production? And both of them has their pros and cons. Using AM in fabrication of orthopedic implants, we can see whether it's knee implant or long bone fractures or hip implants or shoulder implants, etc. So the shortcomings of standard implants, the one that's used now, which is just like large production. The first thing is that it requires bone modification to fit the construct. So when the doctor goes in the surgery room, he has to make some changes, either using bone cement or cutting part of the bone to accommodate the surgery. Stability concerns also raised many times in the literature because it's just it's the closest size, but it's not the exact size. It requires long surgery time, so that's another challenge. Long recovery period by the patients, and for even some implants like a skull I mentioned earlier, there is no standard sizes. Each fracture will be treated differently. I believe you're all familiar with this. So here we use usually materialized mimics and thematic. For example, if you look at this example of a cranial plate, this is for an injured young man. It was discussed in the literature by some authors from Colombia. And Colombia is doing a good job in utilizing custom implants, but they have a problem with the resources for AM, which is getting very expensive. So it goes, you start from the computer, the whole work starts from a CT scan, and then based on that, you design the implant as you see here in the right, and you can see the difference. Also, for this complicated surgery here, you can see the difference between for the patient before and after. Okay, so when I made it custom seems like takes long time. I have to go to the patient, and by the way, we collaborate with the hospital for a special surgery, which is one of the big hospitals in the US that deals mainly with implants and orthopedic implants. And they do more than 30,000 surgeries a year. 10,000 of these surgeries are orthopedics. So now I will tell you about the hospital at the end of the presentation because they have some new approach now. So the advantage is if I use custom-made implants through this route, like I take a CT scan, then send it to the whatever software you are using. In this case, we have Mimics. And then use thematic to design the implant and then print it out. And then have the surgery get some training, hands-on training before. I saw a couple of I listened to a couple of presentations before me. They talking about pre-surgery planning. So have the surgery get this, as the surgeon get this confidence that he can do good job in the operation. And also, if there is any problem, that it will be addressed before the surgery. So the first thing is that the advantage is that less bone will be removed because the size is exact and fit and based on the real size of the patient. Less surgery time also. So you're reducing the time. And here in America, I think in everywhere in the world, if you talk about money and cost, everybody will listen to you. So if you tell them, okay, we're going to reduce the cost of the operation because reducing the surgery time, that will be automatically reducing the cost. So this is something very motivating for your company or for the hospital or any health facility to move to that. So even for the patient, less bone will be removed. So we're talking about better patient experience. And more stable implant was the way it was done. It was custom. Can fit any size of different anatomical features. I hope you can mute yourself. Reduce the possibility of infection during surgery when you reduce the surgery time. So we can see there are so many advantages. The only problem will be just the time it takes when you take it from
كيف تطلع الريبورتات هذه؟ طريقة تعطي
مش عارف حيكون yeah sorry Mr. Gaffar but please switch off the mic for Majid
لا هم بيطلعوهم بيعطوا فيها
Just a second, I'm putting. Yeah.
يجيك على الايميل كيف
Okay.
sorry for
Thank you.
yes you
Thank you. So we can reduce the possibility of infection during surgery. And now even with the moving with robots. Okay, now when we come now, we want to see if you have to use AM in this. The first important thing about AM is that short production time, as you know. It just takes long time in the design stage, but once you have the design, it will be easier and faster to get the part. The cost proved to be less expensive. And by the way, I visited India a few years ago, and I went to an institute, Software Fda, Institute of Technology, and they were doing very good job that they're trying to manufacture the implants locally, and this saves the patients a lot of money. Which is very good, and they have the CAD/CAM center, which is very. I got very impressed really with the work they are doing there. So economical in general, we know that AM uses less material, especially if using titanium, which is more expensive compared to steel. Reducing cost. Allow easy creating of porous materials to allow bone growth, especially now you see in hip implants, you want to allow bone growth. So to create this porous structure, it's not easy through conventional manufacturing. It will cost more money. But as you know, generally about AM, complexity doesn't change the cost when you use AM. The cost even here for the surgeries are very expensive. Hip replacement, they take $65K for the operation, dollars. This is a lot. Usually insurance company pay that, they pay that. But anyway, it's not only $65K actually. The hospitals and the physicians, they're very creative in adding more money. So the final bill, this is the initial one, $65K. Usually it ends up with more than that. It could be in the 80s, 83, 84. These surgeries for implants, they're getting very expensive. And the patient is not 100% most of the time covered by the insurance. So the patient has to take some of the cost. There was a problem here. This is even, we talk about US, forget about the other parts of the world. There was a problem that people to travel, patients from the US, they travel to Belgium because the cost of the operation, for example, like the hip, it costs there about $13,000 or $14,000. So they used to go just to Belgium, do the surgery and come back. And it's something very amazing. Common materials, stainless steel, titanium, polyethylene, ceramic, these all material you can use in these implants. Some criteria for selecting the material. So it depends on the implant type. Now in dentistry also we use AM, biocompatibility, stiffness and strength. So all these things has to come into consideration. The weight, for example, we have a problem, lightweight should be. When you, cranial plate, when you use a metallic one, whether it is steel or titanium, it still will be heavier than the bone that you move out. So these are one of the challenges. These are some of the AM technologies that can be used. Some companies now, in the past, 10 years ago, when we were talking about custom-made implants and orthopedic devices, it was like something very impossible, or something not impossible in terms of flow. that the regulations very strict against it. But now a lot of companies showed up to the surface in the last few years. They say, oh, you can do custom-made devices or custom-made implants, and you just have to make an agreement with them. However, but to work on a bigger scale, they are not allowed to by the regulations. Europe has more freedom in doing this, but what I see in the Middle East and Africa, there are so many rooms, not only orthopedics implants, but for all other healthcare facilities. And there were some successful examples, like the student from MIT who was doing her master degree, and she made I think a drainer for the injuries, and she marketed them mainly in Africa. Okay. Prosthetic devices are very challenging also when it comes to cost. We started working on bionic. And how many minutes do I have, by the way? How many minutes left?
Actually, we are on the way. Just how many slides are left? Just
not many.
You can continue. You can continue. Or
Okay,
you can
I will wrap it up quickly. Okay, the price of prosthetic devices also. Prosthetic devices are very challenging here and everywhere in the world. We started working on bionic hand a couple of years ago. They are very challenging. The challenge is easy to make a bionic hand, but it's very difficult to establish the protocol for manufacturing a low-cost bionic hand. So it costs about, in the market now, the cheapest bionic hand we have seen is $3,000 with a good quality, made by some young, ambitious people from Japan. So how can, many people say we're going to drop the price, but it's still challenging to drop the cost, and with there is a very high need. We're working with organization in enabling the future, and they work on creating prosthetic hands, and they distribute it for free all over the world. It's a non-profit organization. So, and one of the challenges here is that you need to replace them often. So the size is not, today this is your size, tomorrow the kid, especially if it's a kid, they grow up and then they have to use a different size. So not very investment is being done in this area, even in developing countries, because usually people will follow the insurance plans, and insurance doesn't pay much, and so many issues with them that prevented the real development in this field. But AM can play a significant role, especially in developing countries. They can play a big role because not everybody can bear the cost of these implants. There was a MIT PhD student. He made, you can look at his TED talk. He made a prosthetic leg for people in, I think he's from Sierra Leone originally. He's from MIT Media, something media, I forgot. But anyway, you can track this in TED talk, and he made a prosthetic leg, very low cost, that can be used in Sierra Leone, because you know, also in Africa there are so many wars, and so you have many injured people, and it's not an easy situation. So bionic hand, this is part of what we have done in bionic hands. Our cost is to go below 300 to get something that can be distributed or sold for less than $300, so everybody can afford it. This project is still on the way, so we have so many challenges to face. We started also working with another company on prosthetic legs, but this work has stopped now. So many challenges, even to find volunteers, to find somebody to go to Africa and just station there and work. It's very deep. Communications there is very difficult. And we tried, but not very successful till now. Aim also in using medical, this is another thing that we can sell to countries in the Middle East, those who have good resources and good infrastructure and finance that can support this type of projects, to use AM in medical and science education. You can produce very complicated body parts using AM, and this is very evident. I think most of you, if not all of you, have experience with AM, and you know what we can do with it. It depends just on the machines. The machine costs are very expensive. I was visiting a company last week here in my area, and I saw the HP 3D printers that can produce this type of parts. But the challenge is the price. Tell me the price is more than $500,000 plus customer service, plus maintenance, plus all these things. Not any country can afford that. Few countries can really afford this cost.
Excuse me. Prabhat, are you there?
Yes.
Sir
Yeah,
Gailani.
I'm there.
Yeah. Sir Gailani, because of
Yes.
time is not permitting to us, because we have already been discussing. So please try to conclude as means. So
I'm
there
done,
is
actually.
another professor.
Yeah. Actually, I'm done. This was the last slide. So these are just our collaborators that I worked with the last few years. So we established recently, 3 years ago, the Center of Medical Devices and Additive Manufacturing as a result of funding from NASA and from NSF. This brought us to work with certain institutions. Anyway, so I'm done. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Mr. Gailani, your presentation is very interesting, and because of time only, there is so many audience, and they are they can other professors also. Because of time only, inshallah, in next session, Mr. Prabhat and Piyush will coordinate with you and will especially arrange a good presentation for you, sir. Apologize for the timing only. So don't mind,
that's
please.
fine. I really appreciate it. Amdan, thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you for everybody, all audience, all my colleagues and students.
Please, there is some other professors also. So, Mr. Gailani,
yes. Can you hear me?
Hello? Available. Yeah, please available, please.
Yes. If anyone would like to have question with Professor Gaffar, they can ask, or they can ask in chat itself.
I will leave my email in the chat so you can communicate with me. Anybody wants to. I have to stop sharing.
Thank you very much, Professor Gaffar. Thank you really very much. So, Miss Ankita, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
मेरे को टाइम लगेगा, फिर अपन देखते हैं क्या करना है. Yeah, hi Ankita, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, we can start.
Okay, sure. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay. Thank you. So, hello everyone. Myself Ankita Awasthi, Assistant Professor in Department of Mechanical Engineering at ILM College of Engineering Technology, Greater Noida.
First of all, I want to thank the team for organizing such a wonderful event and just giving the opportunity to me to present my work here. So currently I'm pursuing PhD and I'm on the verge of submitting my PhD in this topic. And my PhD work is investigation, fabrication, and optimization of implant materials, which are basically used in orthopedics. So like when participants were posting questions on materials or advanced implant materials, I was thinking, can I answer it? But now I got my turn here. Well, most of the insights related to my topic was already given by Mr. Ketan, Dr. Shakti, Goel, and Dr. Gaffar. But I have something new to share with you all, and I think it will be a good takeaway for you guys. So let's start. I would like to switch off my camera first because just to avoid some statics or just to have some uninterrupted conversation here. So yes. So 3D printing a new normal. If we talk about the traditional manufacturing such as molding, because earlier implants were made of traditional manufacturing, so it will require some special toolings, some custom devices to produce implants, and their production cost is so high that it will be like unrealistic thing for us. But after introduction of 3D printing, now it becomes a new normal. Prosthetic limbs are becoming more and more affordable, and it is faster to produce. And it can have, this technology can use to create prosthetic tailored to patient based on the patient anatomies, and thereby it improves the or enhance the longevity of the part. So 3D printing not only represents a lower cost overall, but it is a more versatile way of manufacturing these devices. But after COVID-19 pandemic, 3D printing has majorly gained its way. Why? Because it has helped the global shortage of medical and pharmaceutical equipments. The digital accessibility, versatility, and fast prototyping capabilities of 3D printing empowers the medical technology, and it has helped people fight against coronavirus by designing preventive diagnostic systems, devices, and enhanced our treatment methods. So currently, around $1.25 billion of market held by the 3D printing itself. And by 2027, the market value will be like 6.08 billions. So there are three major pillars where you can find the 3D printing is extensively overgrowing. First is designing of orthopedic implants or printing the medical devices. Then second is patient-specific and personalized anatomical modeling, just for the pre-surgical planning. And third is medical and dental devices such as prosthetic, braces, dentures, restoration, and clear aligners are significantly benefiting from the 3D printing. So this is how healthy knee joint look like. And this is the replaced knee joint, where you can find a femoral component and tibial component, and a plastic spacer is placed in between of this. This is the sample image where you can find that how implant can help to prevent the osteoporosis and bone inflammations. This is how arthritis look like. Here you can see a magnified image of this arthritis, how it has damaged and how the 3D implant helped, or implant materials help the arthritis. So I'm here to present designing and 3D printing of implants. So for preoperative templating, this is done through radiographic examination of contralateral site, taking into consideration any anatomical anomalies, dysplasia, etc., and how it helps the surgeons. It provides the effective pre-operative planning, allows the surgeon to predict the impact of different interventions in order to perform the joint restoration in most of the accurate and safe manner. Second, it provides the optimal femoral stem fit, level of femoral neck cut and prosthetic neck length and femoral component offsets that can help, that can be analyzed with the radiographic analysis, and that can be designed with the help of designing softwares. Third, pre-operative planning also allows the surgeon to have the operative implants available at surgery. So this is how the radiographic image is analyzed. The basic objective, this is implant, and how it is designed. There are three primitives which is actually looked by the designer, that what is the length, leg length, and second is how it going to bear the load, what kind of material we actually apply and test it with the help of finite element analysis software, and third, determination of anticipated component size. So this is a hip implant which I have designed, and I'm going to share this video with you guys. This is hip implant I have designed with the help of Fusion 360. And how it's going to be installed in the bone. This is, you can see with the help of this pictorial projections, and these are the areas, or I can say occult areas in healthcare 3D printing. Existing revenue sources are pharmaceutical drug delivery market, diagnostic imaging services market, patient lateral transfer market, home healthcare market, and medical supply market. These are the existing revenue sources. And the new revenue sources, which we can say that they can be a part of 3D printing. They are medical exoskeleton market, digital diabetic management market, dental printing 3D market, breast cancer liquid biopsy market, and medical wearables market. So they can be a new cult areas for 3D printing healthcare systems. So my proposed area and its advantages are digital planning and templating for orthopedics, because it will help surgeons to design and to have a little bit idea about how it's going to be installed in the patient and how it's going to help in the surgery. What are the benefits behind of this digital planning and templating for orthopedics? It gives fast and smoother procedure. Second, perception of higher competency and reliability, improved outcomes, safer for both orthopedic surgeon and the patient. And fifth is it reduces the inventory. So it's all about my work. So any further queries, you can connect with me. My email ID is ankita.avasthi@ilm.edu. Here is my LinkedIn profile and my Web of Science Researcher ID and my Google Scholar ID. So I would welcome.
Thank you very much, Ankita.
Any questions? Any questions? I think most of the questions are already being answered, but I have written few things which I want to share with you guys that titanium 6, aluminum and 4 vanadium is the most popular one in the advanced implant materials, or I can say implant materials. And I'm doing my PhD in polyurethane hydroxyapatite, and I have made is in order to improve this improved version of implant materials. I have used CNT, carbon nanotubes. So that is my work. So when can we expect commercial launch tentatively? About what, Krishna, I actually want to know. Can Krishna mute himself? Piyush sir? Piyush sir?
Yeah, what I mean is like
Yeah.
either you do on your own startup or something like transfer of technology,
Oh, yeah.
something on that basis.
I'm actually open for collaboration. Right now, I'm not thinking about the startup because I'm on the verge of completing my PhD. So the first thing is to complete my PhD. I'm submitting my PhD in January, but after that, I will surely going to start with this because I think I am designer first, then a teacher. How carbon nanotubes can be used in 3D printing? Is there any paper? Carbon nanotubes are actually, this is my novelty, what I can say, because I have seen that polyurethane can be mixed with the hydroxyapatite. Carbon nanotubes can improve the strength. Okay, so polyurethane is lacking for the strength. So that is the main thing. And we can improve the strength by using the carbon nanotubes. And yes, you can find my papers in the Google Scholar or ResearchGate. You can search it there. And if you want some specific papers, because of the Copyright Act, we as an author, once we submit our paper, we are not able to like share with the people, but like on the open platform. But I can help in you in that, Akshay. So I can share my papers. Okay, so I got the question from Gokul. Ma'am, I was studying mechanical engineering final year and I was interested to take a career path in 3D printing. How can I step up and get a job, ma'am? So Gokul, are you very well versed in designing? Do you know AutoCAD, SolidWorks? Okay, so Gokul, you can connect with me. I definitely going to help you in that, because as a teacher, it's my first and foremost responsibility to help my fellow engineers. So you can connect with me. And I have received one question from, okay, so you know Creo 70%.
Ankita, what you can do, you can just share your email in the chat.
Yeah,
and,
yeah, definitely.
And easily, then all the participants can connect with you. However,
Yeah.
Mr. Ketan, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Yes. Sorry for the time, and let's conclude with the panel discussion. Dr. Shakti, are you there?
Yes, I am here. I've come back. Yeah, sorry, I had patience.
Thank you very much. And Ibrahim?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes. We can start a panel discussion. Mr. Ibrahim would be the moderator for the panel. So, Mr. Ibrahim, you can start with the topic, and our whole speakers will start again.
Okay, so if some of you know, I'm from Lebanon, and we have a major crisis here. So one of the crises concerns in the medical field. So how would you consider helping small countries, and at least for the implant or to show them a hands-on on how to make their own or not implants, like orthopedics or anything that can be printed at home. So is there anything that that is possibly to work on?
I can go first if it's okay. So, it's a great question, Ibrahim, to be honest with you, the innovation really happens when you have a constrained environment. That's when you kind of think outside the box. And, we as an organization continue to receive such queries on, how we can save costs, yet provide the best possible solutions. And, I think having a 3D printer, having the software tools that are already available today, some of them even the design tools, there are many freewares available today. Using the combination of these things, you could do really great things in terms of what we have seen in terms of cost, in terms of implants and stuff like that. There are ways where you can save costs. We have had one of our customer who really wanted to make this a finger implant, right? And it wasn't available, and they were very innovative. We provided them a very small 3D printed medical grade mold. Okay, and what they did was, and they tried saving the cost even in that, yet without any compromise of biocompatibility. So we provided them a mold of that the bone, right? And they used a PMMA, which is very cost effective, and created, they attached some artificial ligaments and created the solution. So many a times you can use combination of the 3D printing and planning and really do wonders. Yes, it takes time, and it as long as you have the passion, I think you'll always find the solutions. What we have found.
Yeah. Like, for example, in Lebanon, there's none hospital that use pre-surgery to help minimizing error during surgery and for the medical student to get to know more about it. So there's a big need for some kind of knowledge that people need to acquire, at least from universities. It's very important. So when you graduate in a certain field, like medical field or engineering field, to have a slight knowledge about designing, slicing, all the software needed for such applications. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I also have a question from all of the speakers. It was actually from the audience itself. They messaged me how much time we can take to make 3D printing affordable in the medical field. Like a normal person can use the 3D printing, and can 3D printing in medical would be able to cure many big diseases such as cancer or HIV, etc. Can they support in that?
Yes, I have a big point on cancer part. So there's a doctor in California called Dr. Hatz. He made a project called 3D sponge. So this sponge main role is to absorb all the excessive treatment or medicament from the chemo in order to only activate so once you have chemo, all the body gets hurt from it. But if you use this sponge, he already used it on a pig, and it showed reduction up to 64% of the drugs coming to the body. So there's a big potential for cancer wise. That's why that topic was really interesting, and I'll share later the text of it. Here, if you can, everyone can see.
Yes, yes, we can.
Hello. Yes. So this is
Time, your voice is not
I
clear.
talked about called Steve Hatz. He's a neuroradiologist. And this is a project called 3D sponge.
Hello. Yes, I think he's having some network issue. I think we can conclude this meeting. If anyone would like to have a question whether any of the speaker, they can ask or we would conclude it.
Okay, can you hear me now, Piyush?
Yes, yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, so what I was talking about is there's a big project done by a man called Steve Hatz. He's a neuroradiologist at the University of California. He developed a 3D sponge. So the role of the sponge is to absorb the medicine before it enters the body. So the drugs become active when it should be active only, and it will reduce the strong effect of chemotherapy. And this sponge was tested on pigs, and the amount of drug administered to the pig's body is reduced to 64. So this is concerning the cancer part. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. Mr. Ketan, you are basically from 3D printing professional background. You are running a good company, just Jajal Medical Services. Can you tell me about how we can make it affordable? How 3D printing medical can reach to India? I mean, if we talk about 3D printing, it still had came from 1970, but still up to the date, it is very unknown. Like to the basic people, if we have to teach them, how you think that it can happen and how the 3D printing future could relate it.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, it's already affordable now. You know, if you compare it, I mean, we are doing now, you know, implants and things. And when we look at our cost of implants and the cost of, you know, implants that are provided by other MNCs, the cost is fairly similar. Yet the other company, you know, the MNC's cost is matching with the customized implant cost for us because, you know, our costs are lower. So there is the affordability in terms of models and all is already there. I think it's the awareness is one part, and then the other part is also, I feel like, you know, the affordability, you have to question the affordability piece, right? Is that, you know, 20,000-30,000 rupees or, you know, $200-300 is not a big amount when it comes to patients' ability to pay for better clinical outcomes, right? So you also have to question that piece as that, you know, is it really, are you sure, like you're really reducing the cost for the right reasons, right? I think that's an important piece that we have to look at. And then in terms of access, I do agree that awareness, you know, more and more awareness is happening with the newer, cheaper printers out there. The awareness is there, and once the awareness is there, there's more and more surgeons who are ready to start using it. And you know, that's how, honestly, that's how we grew. You know, we started with one surgeon, that became 5. You know, that 5 talked to another 5, that became 25, right? So it's scaling through word of mouth, and you know, once they experience the service and how it's done, it's also, you know, like Dr. Shakti had mentioned, right? It's not for every case, right? So I think it's also a myth to some extent that a 3D printing will cure cancer, right? At the end of the day, these are augmenting technologies that you use in collaboration with what is already there today, right? And you kind of combine what's there with this as an enabling technologies to do it. So it's there, but it's not a magic potion that's going to solve any problems, right? You just have to kind of take it by, and it varies from case to case, patient to patient, disease to disease, to some extent also country to country, right? Where the way affordability is in one country may not be the same as another country. So it's a hybrid model, but I do feel that more awareness and programs like these bring more people together and have them talk to each other and learn more about how these can be enabled for that particular application.
Yes. More awareness, they need it. In fact, we have the technology, but many people still don't know what is the 3D printing. Even my younger brother, if I tell them like I'm working on 3D printing in my family or somewhere, they were like, oh, what is that? And then I have to tell them you can create bones, it can help in medical field, it can help in different fields, etc. So Dr. Shakti, would you like to give any point on this?
Yeah, so very interesting talk, and I agree with Mr. Ketan what he said. So that what I believe is when we look these things from another perspective, like we are dealing directly with the patients. So whenever we see something, it has to be used, right? We have orthoses, let's say they have to be used and they should benefit the masses, and then only it is beneficial. We see a number of conferences. People have been talking about 3D printing, but when we come to the reality, a patient who is coming to us, let's say he has an amputated finger, is he willing to pay, let's say, a good amount of money for that surgery? Everything comes down to how much they can pay. That is the sad reality of India. And secondly, when we talk about the insurance companies, they are not taking care of if you talk about 3D printed implants, it is not like that it works. They say, okay, this is a pelvic acetabular surgery. The amount that the insurance company will give is a 75,000 package total. That should include everything: medications, admission, surgery, anesthesia, post-discharge medications. And in that, if you incorporate 3D printing also, the cost becomes very low. Hence, the corporates are not interested in incorporating 3D printing. Where do we see 3D printing? We have a research institute at Indian Spinal Injury Center. We have a 3D printer. We work with IIT Delhi. They have a 3D printer. But when we talk about dealing with the masses, that is the sad reality that we are facing. Secondly, an interesting concept that has come up, and we are working with a few companies. I am working as a consultant with a few companies in this, is use of 3D printing in training the surgeons. That is what is the need of the hour. Because what is happening, because of the medical legal issues, the current generation is not getting the opportunity to operate a lot, even in government hospitals. The professors are worried about the patients. Earlier, the surgeons used to learn by doing. Now, the sad thing is that we have to learn by reading and by seeing the videos, and then you operate on your own patient. And that is not how you learn. So the way the various societies, let it be American College of Surgeons, when I was in US, I attended this I used to attend ACS meetings in Chicago. At that time in 2011, they were using 3D printing plus simulation plus haptics on various models so that you can have the real environment. Doing surgery is not merely you get a spine model, like we have this spine model and you do operate on this. This is not surgery, because this is not what you see in the operation theater. What you see is a pool of blood, muscles and nerves all around it. And when you put a simple screw, you are scared that you are not damaging the nerve. That is what the sad reality is, right? So the aim, what I believe, if you talk about 3D printing, we should first assess who the consumers are. If your consumers are doctors, then you should target young doctors who can learn from these 3D models combined with haptics and development of simulation lab. If you talk about simulation labs, how many simulation labs do we have in India? 2 simulation labs, one in AIMS and one in Bangalore, right? And these are the only 2 places where they go for various surgeries, and they pay like huge amounts. One surgical training course costs around 40 to 50,000. That's a one-day course for these surgeons. So this is the need of the hour. And if we are targeting the patients, then we need to have certain things which the patients can buy. When I mentioned in my talk, I talked about low-cost motorized wheelchair. So we have developed this wheelchair that has also got patented, and the government, we are working with Ministry of Social Justice to bring it into the market. It costs hardly 30 to 40,000 rupees. And that is what a paralyzed person in India needs. Self-reliance, getting into the community. The life is not merely lying on the bed, right? And if you can give this to a patient at such a low cost that the people will buy it, then we have n number of people who will purchase it so that they can become self-reliant and they can get into the community. And that's what I believe, that when we know about our consumers, then we can target this better.
Yes, yes. Knowing the consumers, even in India, India is really very big, and to be frank, we have a good amount of a population and a good audience. We are Indians are buying money and spending money on different things. Let's talk about Ibrahim country. Ibrahim is from Lebanon, and basically he works in has a company where he would give the he would show the baby her model, like as a 3D model to any pregnant woman. He would show the baby as a 3D printing model. And as you know about the Lebanon crisis right now, the financial crisis in Lebanon are so high right now. So in the Ibrahim stage, if we go to the that stage, at the that method stage, and we wanted to make the 3D printing to helpful for them, how we can conclude on it.
So I'm gonna talk about my business. It was started up like 3 years ago. It started as I worked in ultrasound machines and X-ray and MRI. So I found a link between ultrasound and 3D printing. Once I did, I started my own shop called 3D Nova. This shop was mainly used for, my main target was for blind mothers who can't see their baby before they are born. So from the conversion of DICOM file from the ultrasound, we can obtain proper file after we denoise it and remove the excessive fluid and made the island threshold and all that. We can get the baby. I have 3D printers, PLA and FD. This project to Australia. I make the files for them and they print it. Next seminar or webinar, I will talk more about real cases. But the crisis in Lebanon left me with the little job in Lebanon, and all the job is for Dubai and Australia. So this is a problem here with all the crisis from current exchange, dollar to lira to Lebanese lira, currency from the coronavirus. Everything went Lebanon downhill. So it takes more than 1 year or 2 years to get back on their feet, and plus we have this crisis for the medical field, especially, and the engineering field we are facing. So hopes up for next projects that will include 3D printing in its. If anyone have any question. 3D baby or Lebanon, I can happily answer.
Yes, my question basically was like as in Lebanon or like as in second grade countries, you can say, who are basically having some financial crisis or have a low income. How can you make them? How can we make them? How can initiative we can take to help them with the help of the technology itself, and to share the knowledge with them itself and helping them making affordable for them at the same time.
Yeah. So as I said before, 3D printing could be affordable, but you have to know how to use it. So if you have a 3D printer and you don't have a cause, it will not help you. A good point was mentioned by the doctor that there's no training for the doctor in Lebanon and everywhere. So this point, if we can manage for the hospitals to make some sort of investment in this kind of material, so we can help them rehearse before surgery on real organs, and this patient real organ, real renal or whatsoever, or any kind of vessels. So to answering your question, there's a need more of a financial help before anything, because the Lebanese people are hard worker. So before this crisis happens, everything were going uphill, and especially in 3D printing. Once I went to this field, around 4 or 5 people more in my area went also to this field. So it's really good, but
Hey, Ibrahim, you are having some network issue. I can
is
see.
following all Lebanon. You can, yeah.
Sure, no issue. It was really a very good talk with all of you. Thank you, Mr. Ketan. Thank you, Dr. Shakti. Thank you, Ibrahim, for joining us today and making the webinar so successful. We would appreciate you, and we would see you another time soon at AdditiveMEA. Thank you very much for all of you for joining us here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
us. Thank you.
Yeah. And every speaker can leave their email in the chat. So if the audience wanted to connect, they can connect easily with them after that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you much.